Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we've got a little video talking about what armies I think are in need of some drastic points changes in the Generals Handbook that's about to come out. Now these are my own opinions and you're welcome to disagree with them or agree with them in whichever way you see fit, and I'd love to hear your own thoughts on them as well, so leave those down in the comments down below. But let's get kicking straight off into this, and this is going to be 7 armies that need points changes in my opinion. So the first one for me is Stormcast Eternals. We've already been hinted in the most recent Warhammer community article that Liberators are going down in points, and that is a good step in the right direction. However, we do need to address a lot more than just Liberators inside Stormcast Eternals. Liberators probably need to drop down to at least 80 points, I think, to be a considered option within Stormcast. At that point, they become fairly cheap for what they do. They become aggressively costed and probably around the right points. I mean, we're seeing a lot more things at 100 points now, being able to do a lot more than they used to back in the day when the Liberator was something to be feared across the tabletop. I do think other things inside Stormcast Eternals, namely Paladins, and even things like Evocators, which at one time did need to go up in points due to how they were currently dominating the meta, but they no longer do anymore, and probably can see their points drop back down and even drop back down to lower than what they originally were. I think Evocators could quite easily be 180 points, even less potentially. They're not as if once the most deadly thing in the game as they once were. I think other Paladins can drop down quite considerably, along with Judicators, and especially Evocators and Dracolines can probably even come down a little bit more as well. Dracothian Guard and the Star Drake are other things that probably need to drop down in points as well, and there are some things that are probably quite fine at the points value they are inside Stormcast Eternals. I do think the Knight Incantor is worth every point of those 140. Things like the little Castellan continue to be good purchase, as well as the Lord Relictor. All these things are probably at the right sort of points value, which is good to see. A lot of the characters, I think, in Stormcast generally are, especially the foot characters, generally are about the right points. Maybe some are a little bit costly. You know, we could argue maybe the Knight Incantor could drop 10 or 20 points, but I think if 140 is fair, that auto unbind is really, really strong. Second on my list, and this is something common, I think, in all of the points changes, and we see it getting asked for every single edition, and that is Idoneth Deepkin. Now, Idoneth Deepkin, I guess the problem in this lies within internal balance inside the faction as a whole. So, Eels aren't necessarily wrongly costed, is that the power of the War Scrolls in the army itself just lead you to playing Eels all the time. Probably the worst offenders inside Idoneth Deepkin are being overcosted without a shadow of a doubt, are definitely the Eidolons of Mathland and the giant turtle, the I forget the name, the Leviathan. Almost forgot the name there. I think these things definitely need to come down so much in points. They're way too expensive for what they do, and it's a shame that we don't see fantastic models like these on the table more. So that's really it for Idoneth. I think barring points, there's not much you can do. I think the issue with Thralls is that they need a 2-inch reach rather than that 1-inch reach. That sort of solves more problems than a point change does for Thralls. I don't think Thralls are actually at a bad points cost. I think it's their reach that really undoes them. If they had that reach and be able to fighting in 2 ranks, they would be able to do a lot more damage and really make them seem a lot more worth those points. Number 3 for me is the Cities of Sigmar. Now, I fully expect to see Phoenix Guard go up in points. Whether or not they should is a question that I'm still debating myself. I don't think they need to go up an awful lot. And I think maybe the right touch for Phoenix Guard is to see them go up in a way indirectly by getting rid of their Horde bonus. I don't think Phoenix Guard need a Horde bonus. This unit is really powerful. People are wanting to take giant blocks of this unit anyway, so I don't really see the need for a Horde bonus in there. I think they'll be much more fairly priced if the Horde bonus disappears. Now, that being said, I think there's a lot of things in Cities of Sigmar that are slightly overcosted. I don't think there's anything within this book that can't be amended with some points changes. Like Even Dark Riders, if they drop down from 110 to say 90 points, like, I know they're not great, but 90 points for 10 wounds and cavalry with 14 inch, like, they actually become a solid option within the army. Other things like Wildwood Rangers, Eternal Guard, Great Swords, all just need that slight little drop, and I think you'll see they do much better on the tabletop. And cities just generally lack that little bit of points just to get those last few things in they really need with lists. And I think just a few slight points changes may enable you to get in that extra screen, that extra character you need, or that extra endless spell you want in the list. Number 4 for me is the Skaven. Now, Skaven are an interesting one because there was a time where everyone was asking for everything in Skaven to continuously go up and up and up. And it did. Everything in Skaven kept getting hit, and they kept getting hit over and over with all these pieces getting hit. Now, this, I feel, led to an issue where Skaven got hit on so many fronts that it actually began to hurt the army rather than fix the army. I don't think all the points changes needed to happen on everything. I think you could have done it for certain pieces or done it smaller on all the pieces if you were going to go across. If we were going to hit all these pieces with Skaven that were going to be problems, we needed to do so in a much better way and potentially even lower the options that aren't getting taken within this book. I really do think most things in the Skaven book are actually really well costed now, and even some could probably come down a little bit. And most obviously, Stormvermin definitely need to come down. I think they are the biggest shame that we don't see more of these fantastic miniatures and amazing models on the table. They've got some really great rules as well. And I think if they were a little bit cheaper, we might actually see them on the tabletop more in competitive play. The other major thing is like maybe the Hellpit Abomination needs to drop down just a little bit more, make him that great. He actually is a bit of an anomaly in that he's this lower end monster that's not a hero, but he's actually pretty decent in a fight. I think if he's just a little bit cheaper, we might see him used a little bit more. Number 5 is Tzeentch, and this army needs point increases, I think, all over the board. However, we've got to be careful when we do this because we don't want to repeat what happened to Tzeentch last time. So for those of you that weren't around, this is the second time Tzeentch has been a problem army in the game. And I won't say all Tzeentch is a problem. There are certain builds of Tzeentch that are definitely problem armies in the game that are creating non-play experiences, not positive gaming experiences that we really want on the tabletop. I think some points increases along the way. Pink Horrors definitely need to go up. There's no way 200 points should get you 50 wounds, or we need to change the mechanics entirely, and I don't see that happening, so for the moment I think its point increases definitely is a thing. The Gaunt Summoner is an interesting one because yes, he can summon the Pink Horrors, but they don't actually start on the table, so is it worth costing them entirely into his War Scroll? And that I'm not really sure on. I do think he needs to go up maybe a little bit, but not too harshly. Maybe if you pop him up to 260, 280, we start sort of going, oh, right now this is cool, because then he becomes a risk and reward. Like, do you manage to get out the Pink Horrors before your opponent takes this 280 point model off? And if they take him off pretty early, you're not getting those horrors out, so they're not really making up for his points in that way, and you've just lost a 300 odd point model. I think there's some things in Tzeentch though that can probably go down, and you might see them played more, is like the Zangor range is definitely something that can probably see a drop, and Current Acolytes might even do with like a 10 point drop here or there. Both these things would hopefully increase in Tzeentch, and would see some of the more problem offenders increase. I do think that honestly we just need to increase the change host to almost unplayability. At the moment in its current state, it is not a fun army to play against, especially when merged with certain allegiance abilities. I wouldn't mind seeing it go up to make it quite considerably more expensive. Number 6 is Seraphon, and I think the number one thing in Seraphon that is a problem with points is Lord Croak. And yes, I've heard the argument that you have to take like an Astrolith Bearer, you have to take the Balwind Vortex, and you have to take all these different things to make Croak really do the thing that he does really well. However, he is just such a devastating piece that I think his points are just way, way too cheap for what he does. Even if you have to take all those pieces to make maximum efficiency out of him, he's still really fantastic without those pieces. So I definitely think like he should see probably a considerable points increase to like put him 400 points probably, or if not more. I like the fact that Lord Croak is really, really strong. I like the fact that Seraphon have a leader that feels like he impacts the game in such a massive way as he does in the lore, impacts the lore so massively. I just want to see him pointed appropriately. Number 7, and the last one, is an interesting one because I'm not sure if points can actually fix this army entirely. I do think we need to see some points decreases across the board for Sylvaneth. They probably are the lowest end army at the moment in the game, and it's a shame because they're such fantastically beautiful models. I definitely think Alariel needs to see a massive points decrease. She just doesn't stack up. I mean, she's the same points as the new Techless model, and the comparison, and I know we're comparing two different armies and they can be pointed differently for two different reasons. However, there's nothing she does that touches anything Techless does. Maybe she does a little bit more combat damage, but it's not much, and she's frail as anything. So I don't think it's really warranting her being the extreme points cost she is. Now, that being said, I would like to just see a War Scroll rewrite of her and make her that extremely good for those giant points. But at the moment, that's currently not the case. So we need to drop her points. There are certain other things in Sylvaneth that definitely need points drops, Tree Lords and Tree Lords Ancients. And obviously the Tree Lord Ancient fix is probably make him a double caster. However, that's probably not going to happen in a General's Handbook. We might be lucky maybe to see that in the FAQ, and that is something I really do hope for, because that's just a slight War Scroll fix that can probably be done with an FAQ. But that's it from me. That's 7 armies I think majorly need some points changes. I'd love to know what armies you think need some massive point changes, and any units from armies that you'd like to see points changes made for. Thanks for watching. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. Please, if you'd like to support the channel more, please do hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me, and it keeps us popping out content like this non-stop. Also, special thanks go to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon, and you can find the links to our Patreon down in the description of the video below. But first of all, thank you to our Sinful Guard Militia members Christian Weir, Wasarin and Philip Ward, and our Sinful Free Guild Regiment member James. You guys are all amazing, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. Lastly, don't forget you can go find in the description of the video also the link to the Sinful Gaming Discord server, where you can chat with me and other members of our little cool community about all things wargaming. Thank you everyone for watching once again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey.